Good day to all of you. I am AC and I welcome you to the second lecture of this video series where we will be discussing some aspects of the English language and its history. In the last lecture, we have tried to understand different ideas concerning language and what do we mean when we talk about literature. We have also discussed that our syllabus requires us to study and understand the history of English language as part of the English Honours Core Course 1. Last day we ended noting that while we have already gained some insight into what do we mean by language, it will be worthwhile to understand what do we mean by English when we say English language. We have had English as a subject, but what do we seek to signify? What do we mean when we use the term English before language or literature? To study the history of the English language, we need to understand the historical and geographical realities of the land we now know as England, the people whom we call English. We also need to know their relationship to different races and language groups in both Europe and Asia. So in this video lecture, we will start to discuss how the history of the English people charted itself and how the language we now consider so universal was developed. At the end of the video, I will also suggest some books on this topic so that you can acquire them. The land that we now know as England is currently part of a union named United Kingdom. Geographically speaking, England is part of the British Islands, which are located to the northwest of Europe. Little is known about the history of these islands, which are separated by water from the mainland Europe before the Roman conquest of Britain. Most historians agree that Britain had some kind of Stone Age settlements where people lived within hunter-gatherer societies. Anthony Toine notes that around 1000 years before Common Era, that is nearly 3000 years ago, groups of people started migrating to these islands from the area surrounding the Mediterranean Ocean. The British Isles saw multiple stages of such migration, both during the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. Peter Salway, writing on the history of Britain, claims that, and I quote, "At the time of the Roman conquest, the culture of Britain had something like 1500 to 2000 years of development behind it." Unquote. These people lived in societies similar to those found in other regions of contemporary northwestern Europe. The culture and language of such societies are loosely known as Celtic. There is little known about these pre-Roman Celtic people, since the society at that time was not literate. They lived in tribes which often fought among themselves. They were polytheistic, which means they worshipped many gods and goddesses, and they worshipped different elements of nature like the sun, and different plants. The priests were known as Druids, and apart from them, the tribes were composed of warrior aristocracy and farmers. During the middle of the 1st century before Common Era, Roman Emperor Julius Caesar tried to invade the island of Britain, but ultimately failed to do so. It was only in the 4th decade of the 1st century of Common Era, about 100 years from Caesar's expedition, that some parts of Britain was finally under Roman rule. And it was around the middle of this century when the Romans laid the foundation of the city of Londinium, the city we now know as London. It must be kept in mind that the Roman Britain consisted of only parts of the island, as the western and northern parts were not under Roman rule. These regions of Cornwall and Wales to the west and Scotland to the north remained as strongholds of Celtic language and cultural practices. For more than 3 centuries, Britain remained under Roman control. In the 5th century of Common Era, the Roman Empire gradually began to decline, both because of the internal corruption and infighting and external invasion by different tribes. As a result, their grip on faraway colonies like Britain suddenly started to slip. Administrative and military establishments were gradually recalled to defend the territories which were closer to Rome. By the beginning of the 5th century, the Roman rule in Britain saw its end. Today, we can find little architectural evidence of Roman rule in Britain, and even less of their lifestyle. Anthony Toine opines that the Romans treated their colonies in much the same way as the British themselves later treated their Asian and African colonies. The colonizers did not mix freely with the native Britons. After the exit of the Roman Empire from Britain, their absence left a void, an empty space, in the power structure of these islands. The Celtic Britons were pushed to the edge by the Romans, and as a result were weakened, thus being unable to seize the political power. This emptiness prompted further migration by tribes from the continent. A large number of people from 3 very powerful Germanic tribes from the northern Europe gradually settled in the British Isles. The name of these 3 tribes are Angles, Saxons and Jutes. The Angles and Saxons were more politically dominant than Jutes, and the period ranging from the middle of the 5th century to the middle of the 11th century is broadly known as the Anglo-Saxon period. And it is from the name of the tribe Angles that the modern name England comes, which means the land of the Angles. The Anglo-Saxons believed in a religion similar to Norse mythology. However, during the Anglo-Saxon period, Christianity also started spreading in Britain. And with the spread of the religion, came the vessel that carried it, which is the Latin language. So it was the Anglo-Saxon period which saw the rise of the Old English language. The direct source of the language was the West Germanic family of languages. The initial phase of the Old English language was also influenced by the Celtic languages, which were the languages of the Celtic Britons, who were living on the islands for more than a millennia. Another important influence was that of the Latin language, initially by the interaction with the Roman Empire and later with the introduction of Christianity by the missionaries. This was the beginning of the language that has now established itself as one of universal significance all over the earth. Yet, the Old English language will seem to be largely alien to someone familiar with the modern language of English. So, in our next lecture, we will continue with the story of how English language came to be and how it grew with the passage of time. We will also know about the ancestors of the English language, the family of languages known as the Indo-European languages. So now I'll suggest you a couple of books that you should acquire and study to properly understand the history of English language. If you study your syllabus, you will also find these books suggested as reference books in the syllabus. The first book, which was first published more than a century ago, but is still considered to be very important, is called Growth and Structure of the English Language, and it was written by Otto Jespersen. And this book is because it's a public domain book, so it has been published by many publications at this moment. The second book is A History of the English Language, and it is written by Albert C. Baugh, and the publisher of this second book is Routledge. And I will suggest you to try to acquire both of these books and study them for a proper understanding of the history of English language.